Good evening. We begin tonight in Leicester, where a 15-year-old boy and a 13-year-old girl have been sentenced for killing an 80-year-old man in a park in a brutal attack that took place last September. Bhim Kohli was racially abused, punched, kicked and slapped in the face with a shoe by teenagers who can't be named because of their age. He was left with a broken neck and fractured ribs, just yards from his home. His family say they have no sympathy for the children who killed their loved one. Our Midlands correspondent Lisa Dowd reports now from Leicestershire Crown Court.
The teenager boy chose to attack my dad and the girl chose to film him being attacked. They knew what they were doing.
This daughter is haunted that she never heard her father's cries for help. 80-year-old Bhim Kohli was assaulted by a 14-year-old boy in a park near his home at Braunston Town near Leicester. He was egged on by a 12-year-old girl who laughed as she recorded it. The boy was sentenced to 7 years in custody for Mr. Kohli's manslaughter. The girl received a youth rehabilitation order, which includes a curfew and community service.
I feel angry, disappointed that the sentence they have both received today does not, I believe, reflect the severity of the crime they committed. However, I understand the judge has guidelines, but they have taken a life, and as a result, our lives have been changed forever.
The retired businessman regularly took his dog Rocky for a walk. In September last year, he was captured on CCTV doing just that before he was set upon. He was slapped in the face with a shoe, racially abused and punched and kicked. He suffered a broken neck and ribs and died the next day. The girl and the boy, who was wearing a balaclava, instead of helping Bhim, ran off. Neither can be identified due to their ages. In court, they were referred to as D1 and D2.
I am sure that you knocked Mr. Kohli to the ground and then hit him to the head with your slider as he was on his knees trying to get up. D2 recorded you doing this. I am sure that Mr. Kohli did nothing at all to deserve it. What you did was wicked.
The attack lasted for 7.5 minutes. As the pair, now aged 15 and 13, were sentenced, the boy wearing a grey tracksuit and the girl wearing a white blouse and black jumper clasped their hands and looked to the floor. Later, as the girl left court, she hugged the boy's mother. Mr. Kohli's family say they feel no sympathy.
Children of that age attacking an old age pensioner. You can see that he's a very gentle, frail man. What was going through their heads?
The family say that the loss of their beloved Bhim makes them feel like their hearts have been pulled apart. And all the more difficult for them to understand is that there was no reason for it. Lisa Dowd, Sky News, Leicester.
Police investigating Madeleine McCann's disappearance have completed their latest search in Portugal. They have spent the last 3 days scouring buildings around Praia de Luz, near where the then 3-year-old was last seen on a family holiday 18 years ago. Well, let's bring in Sky's Dan Whitehead, who's in Praia de Luz for us tonight and has been following the progress of this search over the last few days. Dan, the search is completed. What can you tell us about what's been going on?
Yeah, well, this search has been led by German police with assistance from the authorities here in Portugal. They applied back in April for permission to come and search the scrubland about 1.5 miles as the crow flies east of where we are in Praia de Luz. We're just 20 or so metres away from the apartment block where Madeleine McCann, that 3-year-old British girl, went missing 18 years ago now, more than 18 years. So police, around 30 officers from Germany, arrived in the early hours of Tuesday morning and began in earnest that search. As you say, they've been searching buildings, mainly sort of dilapidated farm buildings, for any sign of clues that could lead to the whereabouts of Madeleine McCann. Now, today we heard that search was coming to a close, and at around 5 o'clock the police started to leave. We actually got inside then some of the buildings. We could see on the ground, actually, we were told by police that there were sort of scratches in the dust marks on the concrete floor of some of these old barns. That was the ground-penetrating radar machine making marks as it penetrated the floors there to try and analyse some clues. Now, the data that those machines have gathered will be analysed back in Germany by police there, so it could be some weeks before we get any answers as to anything significant has been found. But I think that we have to realise that they had 4 days to search here. They could have continued their search yesterday. They didn't do so. They have pulled out 1 day early. And I think if anything really significant had been found, then there would be some police presence that would remain there. That, of course, will be disappointing if nothing is found for, of course, Madeleine's parents, Kate and Jerry. I did speak to one officer who didn't want to speak on camera, and I did ask him, look, has anything of significance, in your opinion, been found? And he said, no, just animal bones. So Kate and Jerry have been here before. You know, so many searches over the 18 years since 2007 when Maddie was taken from that holiday apartment. The prime suspect, of course, in this case is the 48-year-old man, Christian B. from Germany. He denies any involvement and he remains in prison in Germany for an unrelated rape case. But the time pressure was on for police because he could be released from jail in September.
After. Dan, thank you. Dan Whitehead there with the latest from Pride Deluge. A 20-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a teenage boy was killed in a hit-and-run collision in Sheffield, with an 18-year-old also in hospital tonight. Ashna Hernag is here with more details. Ashna, what can you tell us?
Well, this is, you know, among the most deeply tragic of incidents to have happened in this specific part of Sheffield. Yesterday afternoon, just before 5 o'clock, in an area called Dar Null. The CCTV footage that we're going to show viewers is quite distressing, but the first thing that you kind of notice when you see this 16-year-old teenager, he's walking along the pavement, sort of chucking a water bottle up in the air and catching it again. The kind of innocence of it, I think, is quite striking. And then the footage grows increasingly alarming because it gets too graphic to a certain point, but you see this grey Audi travelling at quite some significant speed, appearing to veer into the opposite side of the carriageway and smashes into this cyclist. He is flung over a garden wall on the right, and almost immediately the car then proceeds to ram into this teenager who's walking along the pavement. The moment of impact, which we understandably can't bring to viewers, causes him to flip backwards multiple times. It's horrifying to watch. And police say that he was an entirely innocent bystander. And we've been speaking to locals on the ground in Sheffield, including the man whose business this happened right in front of. And he says everyone in that community is utterly shaken, particularly as many people will be celebrating Eid over there tomorrow.
Okay.
It's obviously shocking for everybody. I think it's a local lad who passed away, and another local lad who got injured, who was on a motorbike. So it's shocking for us as a community. As a citizen, it's quite concerning. I have children in this area. They go to school, they go to work, other family members going to the local shops.
South Yorkshire Police now say that a 20-year-old man from Kent has been arrested on suspicion of murder. And there are additionally 3 other people who've also been arrested, a 45-year-old woman and 2 men, aged 26 and 46 years old. They've been arrested on suspicion of assisting an offender. All 4 people are in custody.
Ashna, thank you. Ashna Hernag there with the latest on that story from Sheffield tonight. Let's just bring you some breaking news now. We're hearing this from Derbyshire Police. They are saying that a woman has been charged with the murder of Isabella Zabloka, who disappeared without trace 15 years ago. Isabella Zabloka, a Polish national, came to the UK in 2009, but stopped contacting her family in August 2010. She was 30 years old and she has not been seen since. A murder inquiry was launched 2 weeks ago by Derbyshire Police, and human remains believed to be that of Isabella Zabloka have been found in the garden of a property in Princes Street, Normanton. 5 people, we understand, have been arrested as part of the investigation so far. Anna Poded Warner, aged 39, of Boyer Street in Derby, has now been charged with murder, preventing a lawful burial and perverting the course of justice. She remains in police custody, and Derbyshire Police say she is due to appear at Southern Derbyshire Magistrates Court on Friday. 2 other women, aged 39 and 43, and 2 men, aged 41 and 48, were arrested on suspicion of murder and all remain on police bail pending further inquiries. So that is the breaking news from Derbyshire Police. A woman charged with the murder of Isabella Zablocker, who disappeared 15 years ago. Women are being warned that weight loss jabs could make their contraceptives less effective, resulting in surprise pregnancies. The medicines regulator is also wanting women to wait for up to 2 months after stopping the medication before trying to conceive, as it's not yet known if the injections are safe for unborn babies. Well, we can speak now to Dr. Nancy Allen, a GP who specialises in women's health. It's really good to talk to you tonight. Thank you so much for this. A lot of women will have seen these headlines throughout the course of today, so it's good to be able to talk about it in a little bit more detail. What do we know about the effect of these weight loss jabs? There are many of them around now, and their effect on contraception.
They are extremely effective medications. As you know, they're injectables and they're generally injected once a week. The general prescription guidance is for women of childbearing age to only have these injections if they have contraception, adequate contraception. There's different types of contraception. The commonest type would be the oral contraceptive pill. The way the drug works, it decreases the gastric emptying time, and that's where the interaction is, where there's a concern about how effective the drug would be. So the options is to take a non-oral type of contraception, and that would bypass it. Studies in animals have shown it to be toxic, which is why it's not recommended to be taken during pregnancy.
It's interesting because the advice is not to take these weight loss jabs during pregnancy, but these kind of jabs weren't originally designed for weight loss. They were designed for conditions like diabetes. So there'll be some confusion there as to why women can't take them during pregnancy.
There's no confusion at all. I mean, if a diabetic patient were to come in clinic, then her diabetic care would be monitored very closely, and we'd mix and match her medications according to what stage she is in her life, in her pre-reproductive years, or even later on in life. But during that particular window, when a lady's in her reproductive years, she generally, particularly if she's trying to conceive, we wouldn't be prescribing it even for patients who have type 2 diabetes or even type 1 diabetes. So we'd look at alternative medications for that.
How do you feel about these weight loss jabs in terms of, obviously, the advice now is, you know, if you're pregnant, don't take them, because we don't know the long-term effects on them. They've only been around for weight loss for a year or so, maybe a little bit longer, but certainly in the public consciousness for around a year or so. What are your thoughts on the long-term effects and the impacts?
I think as a nation, unfortunately, we are between overweight and obese. Our numbers are around 75% of the nation is between obese and overweight. So obviously having these injections were extremely powerful, have proven to be a game changer in reducing a lot of metabolic conditions, cardiovascular conditions that are proving to be a burden on people's healthcare and consequently life expectancy and quality of life as well. So they are a game changer. We are embracing it. And in December 2024, the National Institute of Clinical Excellence actually produced a guidance recommending the NHS starts taking on these medications and prescribing it, hopefully through primary care. So we're at the stage at the moment, NHS England is trying to find and allocate the funding to roll this out. So they're predicting it will cost about £20 million a year. But I think the UK is in a very, very unique position where it's going to be available for people who do need it for health reasons, particularly.
So the advice for women who are using these weight loss jabs with regard to contraception is use other methods of contraception to stay on the safe side so there aren't any unplanned pregnancies. However, if a woman were to find herself pregnant while she's on these weight loss jabs, what would be the advice?
Number one is stop immediately, go to your GP and have a consultation. I think most GPs, as like you said earlier, it's a relatively new drug. And in my clinical practice, I haven't actually come across a lady who's been taking the drug and become pregnant. But I think in the early stages, it's still, we're collecting world data and we're aware of it. And there's a lot of research in that in this field regarding that, but the advice is to stop and consult your doctor immediately.
Dr. Nancy Allen, really good to have you on the UK Tonight this evening. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
Breaking news now, and I want to take you to the moon. A private lunar lander from Japan is right now attempting to touch down in the unexplored far north with a mini rover. What does all of that mean? Well, shall we ask our science and technology editor, Tom Clark? He knows a bit more, certainly a bit more than I do about this, Tom. This is all fascinating stuff. Look, there's the control room, live pictures from there now. Explain to us exactly what's happening.
Well, judging by the look on everybody's faces in the mission control room, I think it's not great news. This is the second time iSpace, and the reason we're interested in this mission is this is a commercial attempt. This is a business venture to land on the moon. It's the second time they've tried, and just about 30 seconds before you came to me, they lost the signal to their spacecraft just as it was beginning the very final descent phase onto the moon's surface. It was a few hundred meters above the surface, and they've lost contact. Now, I imagine they're all hoping there might just be a bit of an interruption in the signal from the moon to the Earth. But looking at some glum faces there, I'm not entirely sure we should leap to that conclusion. So it looks like it might have been a second failed attempt by iSpace, this Japanese company, trying to make a commercial landing on the moon. But there's still hope. I can see hope in the faces there too. And there's a lot at stake here, not just for this company, because it's their second go, but this would be a very big step, if they do pull this off, towards the commercialization of the moon, towards businesses being able to go there and begin to explore some of the commercial opportunities that the moon might afford, if everyone can agree that that's the sort of thing we want to see going on the moon. It was carrying various experiments to try and demonstrate that. One to try and produce food from algae, another one to generate oxygen, air you can breathe, and fuel in the form of hydrogen from splitting water that you can find on the surface. But it looks like it might not have worked. So if that's the case, this was going to be the second successful commercial moon landing. Only one company has done it successfully so far. Just earlier this year, an American business successfully put a lander on the moon. But they had quite a bit of support from NASA financially. So this was going to be, a key moment. But as they say in the world of space, it's hard. Landing on the moon, even for nation states, is difficult. Russia failed to land a probe on the moon with the full backing of its state-based, space business, its space agency on the moon only last year. So it's even tougher for a small, poorly funded company, but doesn't look good. Sorry, I couldn't bring you better news from the moon.
No, that's all right. A lot of people leaving that room, and you did very well to read people's faces there. A lot of disappointment, a little bit of hope. Tom, thank you. We did see the successful launch there, so some good pictures, but like you said, not quite the landing that was planned. Tom Clark there, our science and technology editor. Let's bring you some breaking news now. This is coming into us from Lebanese media. There has been an Israeli strike on Beirut's southern suburbs. That is according to Lebanese media. I'm just looking at the information that's coming into us now. This a live shot of the area. Quite difficult to see, obviously. It is late at night. They're around 10:20. We did see some smoke in the distance. But there has been, according to sources, Reuters as well, quoting Lebanese media, that there has been an Israeli strike on Beirut's southern suburbs. Israeli military has said that it is attacking Hezbollah targets in Beirut, and that is coming from Reuters. And it seems that those targets are in the southern suburbs of the city of Beirut. Bear with me, I'm just looking at the information as it comes into us to make sure that we don't miss anything. This is from the AP news agency. Israel strikes Beirut's southern suburbs on the eve of Eid. It says it has targeted Hezbollah drone production in that area of Beirut, and that coming to us from AP. The strike, live footage from Reuters almost an hour ago now. This is after the Israeli army issued an evacuation order to residents of the area before those strikes took place. And certainly Israel are saying that they are targeting drone production in Beirut, Hezbollah targets this evening. As I said, it's around 10:20 in the evening in Beirut. We'll get more information on what is unfolding there and bring it to you in the world, which is following our show tonight. Yalda Hakim with more at 9 o'clock. Now, Amit Ghose was born with a rare genetic condition, neurofibromatosis, which causes tumours to grow on his face. Amit says he has suffered bullying and discrimination throughout his life as a result of the condition, and he now hopes to raise awareness for those with facial disfigurements, including writing a children's book, which is all about embracing what makes us unique. I spoke to Amit a little earlier this evening, and I began by asking about his experience growing up with the condition.
Neurofibromatosis type 1, yeah. A condition many people can't pronounce. Remember, it's more commonly known as NF1. It causes tumours to grow on nerves. For me, they grew on my face, so I couldn't hide it. The memories that I have of school were very lonely, very isolated. I remember other children didn't want to sit next to me. They didn't want to talk to me, be my friends. Playgrounds, when you're picking teams, when you play football and they're picking teams, I was always standing around waiting to be picked. So school was really difficult, and we don't quite understand what depression and anxiety is at that age. But reflecting back now, I know I was going through those emotions, and so many children go through those emotions because of our insecurities or our disabilities, or in my case, my condition on my face.
And you had to wait a while for a diagnosis, didn't you? And I would imagine that made it more difficult for you as a young boy as well, not quite knowing what your point of difference was or meant.
Yeah, I mean, diagnosis when you're neurofibromatosis is quite a journey. Yeah. It takes time, and even understanding it, because my family, no one in my family or I had heard of what neurofibromatosis was. So what is it? How does it impact you? What, all these questions about what's the longevity of this? How does it impact him? It's just uncertain, this unknown world that we were going through at that time. And as a child, it's just so much to take on and bear.
Yeah. How did you cope with that? I understand that your father was a really central, supportive figure. All of your family were, of course, but particularly your dad.
Yeah, my entire family were very, very supportive of my condition, but my dad was really strong. I mean, one of the things that helped me come out of this was cricket. I was a big cricket fan. I used to love playing cricket, but I always feared playing cricket with other children. So I used to play by myself in the garden sometimes. And I remember my father bought me a bat and a ball, and some external family member said, "Oh, what are you doing? What if the ball hits his face? He's already got this condition." And my father said, "If my boy wants to play cricket, he wants to play cricket." And for me, that was a very defining moment in my life to say, you know what, I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to go and embrace this. And went to school, I played cricket, and I went from the boy with the funny face to the boy who plays cricket. And I think that was a big defining moment. And for me, in my journey now, I talk about how we need to embrace who we are. I talk about the 4 steps of confidence. And step 1 is embracing who we are. We need to embrace our hobbies, embrace our likes, our interests, because then people connect with you with that.
Yeah. Because there is an obvious point of difference, but away from that, there are so many other ways to connect with people.
Absolutely.
And when I talk about your life being in 2 parts, the second part of your life, because essentially you have left behind a career in sales to dedicate your life to informing and inspiring people because of your condition. And you've written a book, Born Different. Here it is. It's a children's book. Yeah. And essentially, the story that you were just relaying to me there about your childhood, you've put into this book to help children who may have conditions like yours, help children who may know those with conditions like yours, and parents as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wrote this book. It's when I started my advocacy journey, I started journaling all my experiences of how I was when I was growing up, and this book came about. And for me, this book is more than a book. It's my emotions, my journey, how I felt. And it's to help, support and inspire anybody who has ever felt lonely, has ever felt isolated. In a very short story, the day before the book came out, I took it to work, where I work, and one of my colleagues was reading through it, and she started crying. And then I asked her, why are you crying? What's happened? What have I done to upset you? And she said, my boy has eczema and dry skin. And there's a page in that book where I come home and cry and hug my mum. And I say, why do I look like this, mum? Why am I born like this? And she said, my boy comes home sometimes and cries that the other children are mean to him. This book is going to help so many parents, so many children. I mean, this is much more than a book. It's an emotion for me.
Yeah, and there's a bit in the book where the young boy based on you goes into the classroom. There's a teacher at the front in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And again, it's about seeing these differences in ordinary places, and that's what you want to show people, that the more people see difference, the more they get comfortable with it and understand it. And I know that your wife said, look, you know, you really need to use your experience and inspire others, and you took to social media, and there was a TikTok video that you posted about your prosthetic, your eye.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that video, because it's got over 22 million views.
It has got 22 million views. So the eye actually comes out.
Yeah.
It's a prosthesis. When I was 11 years old, I had this surgery to have the eye removed. And a lot of the times when I'm at home, I leave the eye open. I won't wear it. And sometimes I go to the door and there'll be a delivery, or I'll look at the shock in the face of the person delivering, and I'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then when I went on this journey, I found out that, you know, you have to be unapologetically yourself. You know, you can't apologise for who you are. This is me, take it or leave it. So I made a video to show the world how the eye opens and how it goes back on. It's literally just like denture that comes out, goes back on. And that video got over 22 million views of people curious around the world about how this technology works, and just, it was amazing.
And what did that do for you? Because, as you said, this is a journey you've been on that has been difficult. You're comfortable with yourself and your condition now, and talking to people openly about it, but it can be very difficult for people if they're curious to know the right way to ask. Some people go about it the completely wrong way, and some people are just nasty about it. There's a whole different spectrum of reaction. What have you got out of being so open, and people getting in touch with you, what have they got out of it?
So I spoke about the 4 steps of confidence. Step 2 is about acceptance. We live in a world now where we're constantly seeking validation externally. We all want to be liked by somebody else. We want to be liked by our wives, our boyfriends, our girlfriends, our teachers. On social media, we want to see how many likes we've got. I learned that you have to start by liking yourself. You have to start by accepting yourself. The moment I learned that this is me, this is who I am, everything else started to fall into place. So it's about embracing your personality. It's about accepting yourself. It's about believing in who you are. Beliefs lead to actions, actions lead to results. And it's those steps that have really helped shape me to become who I am now. And that social media journey of posting content consistently and helping people has actually helped me.
How do you deal with the online world? Because then, with the best will in the world, what you're doing is incredible. And people should be able to see difference everywhere they look, so that they're not shocked or they're not unkind, but that's just sadly not the world we live in. So I just wonder what your experience is online. I'm sure you've got a lot of support, but do you still get some of those comments that you would hope would be left in the school playground?
I do get a lot of negative comments online, people calling me fake, people saying that I'm using some sort of AI generation to do this, to get views, to get likes. But it's that one positive comment that makes the difference for me. That one person that says, Amit, your video has made a change to me today, your video has helped me today. That's what fuels me to keep going and keep creating content.
Well, Amit, I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to keep hold of this for my little girl and boy, because there's a lovely section at the end of the book where you ask them to draw pictures to say what is different about you, what makes you special, and it's about focusing on that bit that you want children to take away with. There are all sorts of points of difference. None of them should be termed good or bad. So good to talk to you, Amit. Thank you so much for coming
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure being here.
It's been great.
Thank you.
What a top bloke. Right, still to come here on the programme. Beyonce is back. We'll be hearing from excited fans at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as the first leg of the Cowboy Carter Tour kicks off. I was hoping for some Beyonce music, not our own, but there you go. And from comedians to care homes, we'll catch up with Taskmaster creator Alex Horne about his latest challenge. Beyonce's dad, Matthew Knowles, has told Sky News that artists get wrongly blamed for issues around ticket prices, saying it's a complex issue where managers should be more involved. Fans of the singer have been flocking to North London tonight, where the UK leg of her Cowboy Carter Tour kicks off. Our arts and entertainment correspondent, Katie Spencer, has more.
No doubt it's a little hotter in Texas. Clutching their cowboy hats in the London drizzle, fans lined up to wait for Beyonce. Of course, this is not her first rodeo. No stranger to stopping off here on tour, she's an artist who's been making music for over 25 years now.
I got there at 6 a.m. Yes, 6 a.m.
We've come all the way from South Africa.
This is the biggest fashion show for us.
This world tour of 31 shows is reportedly projected to make around about £240 million, and fans are promised plenty of bang for their buck from this. Cowboy Carter, at almost 3 hours, is her longest show yet.
From giant trucks to mechanical bulls, when her UK tour tickets went on sale, fans reported prices seemed to stay static, suggesting dynamic pricing wasn't used to cash in on demand. For established artists, with their income from shows often surpassing revenue from streaming or sales nowadays, it is a tricky line to tread, covering the costs of the massive touring infrastructure involved and making a profit, whilst ensuring fans don't feel ripped off.
One hit song can change your life.
A man that knows personally of the pressures on Beyonce is her dad.
It takes a lot to be a good manager. It takes even more to be a great one.
From Destiny's Child through to 2011, Dr. Matthew Knowles managed his daughter. Now in academia, in town to teach students at the London College of Contemporary Music and to help find new talent deserving of his scholarship. As for his take on Oasis's headline-making ticket pricing row,
I had to learn the value as a manager of understanding where each and every ticket goes. You know, it's sad that often the artist gets the black eye when it comes to ticket sales or the pricing of tickets, when in fact that manager should be more involved. Sometimes it's not the artist that's been invited. Sometimes the artist doesn't even know about it until they hear these complaints.
Whoa! Of course, you'll hear few complaints from this lot. Happy to mosey on inside, clinging on to one of the most sought-after tickets in town. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
Now, he is best known for somehow convincing famous contestants to compete in the craziest of challenges. But Alex Horne's latest Taskmaster lineup was a little different. Take a look.
Hello, it's me, little Alex Horne. I'm here at Second Court near Banbury because I've heard at this nursing home they do Taskmaster. So I'm going to go inside, join in a session and see how they do Taskmaster. Wish me luck. Abracadabra, thank you.
I won't eat spaghetti for about a month.
Alex Horne there hosting a Taskmaster competition in a care home in Oxfordshire. And I caught up with him a little earlier today and began by asking him how the whole thing came about.
Well, hello, Sarah-Jane. It is an accident, which I think quite often is a positive thing. I found out through a friend of a friend, Helen, who you're going to meet soon, who works at the care home, that they run these Taskmaster events every week with the residents, and it really works with them, I think, to engage in some nonsense, use the brain, have a bit of competition. And I said, I'd love to come along and watch it because I was so amazed that it happened. And she said, well, you can judge the tasks. And I don't normally do that. Greg Davis normally does that. So I leapt at the opportunity and, yeah, turned up at Second Court and it was all true.
I love that. So you got to play a different part in your own game. What was it like? How competitive were they?
It was just like doing it with the comics. It really was. So I've done this thing, and I've done it in primary schools and with Girl Guides and Stags and Hens, and it's exactly the same as at a residential home. They were bending the rules. They were quite determined. They were quite sneaky. Chrissy, who won, was so determined to win. And we always have that on the telly. We always have one comic, normally a 30-year-old man, who is desperate to win at all costs. And Chrissy fulfilled that role.
Oh, well, you've got a Chrissy. Chrissy is now going to be the new term for an ultimate competitive contestant. She is the champion. What made her a champion? We're going to speak to her soon, so be careful what you say.
Yeah, just determined. I mean, the whole point of Taskmaster, it doesn't reward the cleverest or the most athletic, but the person who thinks outside the box, a bit of lateral thinking. But also, she wasn't going to let anyone else win. She crushed them in the final task. She was up against Ruth, who was 100 years old. But I think Ruth came third. So, yeah, I'm not saying the opposition were in any way weaker than the normal Taskmaster contestants.
Age is no barrier when it comes to Taskmaster. Chrissy's pretty popular on the internet after people seeing what unfolded and her being crowned champion. People saying things like, Chrissy takes no prisoners. I wouldn't want to go up against Chrissy. She's found it all amusing, apparently. I'll ask her about that. But there's a lot of positivity around what you've done. And you know, it's breaking down a lot of barriers in terms of people's perceptions of what goes on in care homes.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, we didn't mean this to be a public thing. I mean, I took someone along, so I thought, let's film this because it's so remarkable. And a local photographer took some pictures, but it's really sort of has touched a nerve with people, I think, because either we know somebody who is older than, well, ourselves, or we know someone in a residential home, or, you know, we're all going to get old, and I think people can be forgotten, and you think, well, they're there now. And I was really struck by how happy this particular care home was, but they do need entertainment like everyone else, like we all do. And yeah, it's really nice to have a positive story. And if, I mean, someone's been in touch from the NHS since, wondering if we can somehow roll this out into more places, and I don't particularly see why not.
Yeah, that's something you'd like to do. And also, as you know, with the older generation, they pull no punches, they take no prisoners, as the internet have said, but they also say what they think. Were there a few people in there going, who are you then? You don't normally run the competitions.
Yes, it was quite a varied audience. I did, someone called Muriel, I think, afterwards. I said, did you enjoy it? She said, no, it was 100% rubbish. Which is fine. It's okay to have your critics. Yeah, but they all watched Taskmaster. Helen made sure they knew what was going on. And yeah, you can absolutely underestimate anyone, particularly this community. So yeah, it was in no way a challenge. I was slightly trepidatious walking in. I thought, how is this going to work? Yeah. But it was just Taskmaster.
Well, listen, it sounds like you've started something really good and really uplifting. As you said, the NHS have been in touch, and I'm sure other care homes will be in touch, and somehow this can continue. Alex, thank you. I'm going to talk to Helen and Chrissy next. So thank you. Thanks,
Sarah-Jane.
Well, let's hear from the competition winner herself, Chrissy, along with Helen, who helped set up the event at the care home. I spoke to both of them earlier, and I began by asking Chrissy how it felt to be the care home's official Taskmaster champion.
It feels amazing, yes. Just about sinking in, I think.
Yeah. Your trophy's proudly sitting there in front of you. I've just had a quick chat with Alex, who said you were the fiercest of competitors. You deserve to be the champion there. No flies on you, Chrissy.
Well, I'd like to sort of correct one or two things. I think the task with the tissue box, where they sort of came out in two lumps.
Okay.
I'm pretty competitive, but I wouldn't say aggressive. Not normally.
So I would disagree on this occasion, though.
So hang on a second. Explain this task. What's the task you've got issue with? Because you had 4 tasks to complete, didn't you?
It was to empty a box of tissues as quickly as you could.
Okay.
And I literally emptied the box in 2 goes.
So that was your best event?
The best was the estimate a minute with your eyes closed, and apparently when I raised my hand it was exactly 60 seconds.
Helen, why did you want to do this?
I love Taskmaster. I'm a big Taskmaster fan, but also our residents here at Second Court just love taking part in anything that's a little bit unusual. We love doing a whole range of activities at KUK, and I just thought it was something that we can adapt and do anything that suits our residents, the things that I know that they're going to find fun, things that I know they're going to find entertaining. You know, it's not just about bingo in a care home. We do a lot of different things. So I knew our residents would love it, and they did.
Helen, why is this so important for residents there in terms of these different activities, finding something different to do every day, something engaging that they can all do together and everyone can participate?
Exactly that. I mean, with Taskmaster, it's something that you can adjust. But for our residents, you know, Taskmaster itself involved them thinking laterally, thinking outside of the box, especially with the tissue box, having to use those different parts of the brain, having to use different dexterity and things like that, as well as it just being, as Chrissy said earlier, a lot of fun and just a bit of a giggle, which is always really important. But anything that can keep people engaged is a winner in our home.
Yeah, well, listen, speaking to Alex you know, he's not going to stop here. He's been invited into your care home. Other care homes have been in touch. The NHS has been in touch. So you might have really started something here. And I know that it's something you're going to continue at Second Court. How are you going to do that, Chris? Are you going to start inviting some of your relatives in to have a go? Have you got any other competitive family members? I bet you have.
Yes, yeah, several would be interested if we could have a residents versus relatives. That would be good fun as well.
And Helen, just a final word for you, because, you know, we do talk a lot about care homes in the news environment, and it's not always positive. But what you've done is you've opened up your doors to Taskmaster and shown a completely different side to that environment.
Yeah, I think, you know, coming into Second Court, this is a wonderful home. I'm really, really proud to work for KUK and to work here. We are always thinking of new ways to engage our residents and new fun things. And we're opening our doors to everybody all the time with our open days and things like that. We've always got community events involved.
Sports day.
We've got a sports day coming up. Yeah, we've got an awful lot of things. It's a really, really lovely, warm place to be. And I'd encourage anybody that wants to come into Second Court and say hello to us, please do. Our doors are always open. And if you want to join in with our next Taskmaster event, give us a ring.
Well, look, it sounds like people will get a warm welcome and have a lot of fun as well. Well, listen, thank you for telling us all about it. Chrissy, congratulations on your trophy that you have proudly in front of you there. You are the champion. More events to come. Be interested to see how you get on, because I'd imagine other residents and relatives will be raising their game from now on. Thank you. Get Chrissy on the TV show, I say. Coming up on the UK Tonight, who's in and who's out? Full details of the Lionesses squad going to the Euros in Switzerland next month.
I'm Stephen Murphy and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin.
All alcohol products, not just wine, will have labels warning of liver disease and the link to fatal cancers.
Is it crazy? It's an industry worth around €14 billion a year. That's why Italy sees this Irish plan as such a threat.
It's always instructive and occasionally entertaining to hear what Donald Trump has to say on the issue of Brexit.
She's got her own way of doing it, that's okay.
The job takes me to every corner of this island.
The rioting stemmed from a horrific daytime stabbing attack at a primary school in the city centre.
The scale of the rioting and the destruction it caused is pretty much unprecedented here in Dublin.
Jerry, any comment on the judge's decisions? Do you feel vindicated, Jerry? This is the end, the somewhat chaotic end, of a 52-day trial.
Micheál Martin could be set to head back to government with the Taoiseach Simon Harris.
Are you confident that you can now return as Taoiseach?
I'm cautiously optimistic and excited.
A mystery press conference hastily called. Leo Varadkar strode out and didn't disappoint.
I am resigning as President and Leader of Fine Gael effective today.
The people here sometimes feel they're somewhat neglected by the Irish government, to the extent that this place is sometimes known as the Forgotten County.
The waters of Ireland and Britain should be home to great white sharks, but none have ever been found.
If there are great white sharks in this area, there's no reason they wouldn't come here to feed. It's basically a buffet on a beach.
This could be not only a record-breaking storm, but potentially the most dangerous storm ever to hit Ireland.
Sky News, get the full story first.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live.
Live here from Washington.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place. And all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
Hello, welcome back. Serena Wiegmann has announced her 23 Lionesses who will be travelling to Switzerland next month for the Women's Euros as the competition's defending champions. But following the surprise retirement of 2 players and the withdrawal of another, it's become as much a story about who isn't included as much as who is. Speaking to our sports correspondent Rob Harris, the Lionesses boss said this is a new England.
It's felt the most disruptive of tournament build-ups. Goalkeeper Mary Earps suddenly retiring from England after losing her starting spot. Frank Kirby quitting after rejecting only being on the standby list. And Millie Bright withdrawing to focus on her mental health.
An experience lost is clear to see here at England's St George's Park base. Between them, Kirby, Bright and Earps have made 218 appearances combined for the Lionesses.
So on the day, Serena Wiegmann settled on her 23 players for the Euros. The manager insisting there is no crisis a month from the title defence beginning.
You've had 3 high-profile players withdrawing. Could all this upheaval be disruptive?
It's sad. Some situations are sad. Other ones is a natural transition of the team. But of course, I'll always cherish, because I've worked with these players for these last years. I'll always cherish the moments we had together because we had an incredible journey.
Millie Bright withdrew because of the mental and physical challenges. Does the game need to do more to address the physical and mental toll on players?
I think with the development of the game and the increase of demands for the players, that's what has been addressed, and that's what we have to look at. But it's also exciting because there's more exciting games. The level of the games is increasing domestically, internationally, and also for country with the Nations League. There's more visibility also off the pitch. So of course, life for top footballer, for top female footballer has changed.
But while Bright rests, 6 of her Chelsea treble-winning teammates are going to Switzerland, including forward Lauren James, despite fitness concerns. And captain Leah Williamson, who missed reaching the last World Cup final through injury, is back, among 6 from Arsenal's Champions League winning squad.
I think they all have experience playing at high-level games with a lot of fans, a lot of spectators, with TV coverage, with a lot of attention. So I think we were in a very good place, and I'm excited. And yeah, it's a new team, I would say New England, and we're moving forward again. And yeah, I'm confident that we can do something special again.
Additional scrutiny is accepted, even welcomed by Serena Wiegmann, reflecting the growth of women's football and expectation around this team to retain the trophy. Rob Harris, Sky News, Burton-on-Trent.
I want to keep that image and, by the magic of telly, put it on that big screen here, because Chris Latcham is here to talk more about the Lionesses. 2 days running we're talking about the Lionesses, and we like that. They are the lead story in the sport. And just looking at that team, we were just saying that squad, it's, you know, you can literally go through and pick the faces that aren't going to be in it now. That's such a famous team now. Let's do it.
You can get a big red marker pen and go, OK, Fran Kirby, part of the squad, Red Cross, Millie Bright, not going to be there. Ellen White's retired, Rachel Daly has retired, Mary Earps is the goalkeeper at the back, she's not there as well.
That's a lot.
They're big names. They are big names that are not going to be there. But today, Serena Wiegmann, when she named her squad, she was asked, is there a crisis in the England camp? And last night I was with you and on Sky Sports News, and journalists that we were speaking to were saying, without doubt, there's a crisis in this England camp. And she said simply, no, there's no crisis. And she said when she was the manager of the Netherlands, going back to 2017-19, there was always noise, she said. The difference now is there's more noise because there's more journalists covering the story, which she says is a positive for the women's game. So she's obviously putting a positive spin on the fact that those players aren't going to be here, as we covered last night. Very bullish, very, very bullish. But these are the defending champions, as we've seen from that picture back there, and they are missing some big, big names. So they're justifiable questions, and it's no surprise that that word crisis will be used when people report it.
Well, as you said, Serena Wiegmann put a positive spin on it. She's called it a New England. And I watched the whole press conference. At the end, one of the journalists said to her, do you hope we'll get to a point where we're talking more about the players that are in this New England rather than the players that are out? And she said, yes. And then the press conference finished. The press conference seemed to be all about the women that weren't going rather
Yeah.
than the ones that are. So can we talk about the women who have made this squad? Let's celebrate them today, because there's a bit of a risky inclusion as well, isn't there, in Lauren James?
Yeah, so she's injured. She plays for Chelsea. She was part of the treble-winning domestic campaign for Chelsea, but she's been injured since April and is not yet fit. But she says it's not a risk. We've still got a month until this tournament starts, so we'll give her the full amount of time to try and get fit. And we've had this before with the men. David Beckham, 2002. Wayne Rooney, 2006. And they went. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see. She's in the squad. Let's have a look at the rest of the sport, shall we?
Staying connected is vital for business. Sky Business sponsors this report.
How do you manage to keep your spirits up and the spirits of your teammates after challenges you may face?
Self-confidence in yourself and your own ability is such an important aspect to have.
I've had a number of injuries the last year and a half or 2 years, and they've taken their toll on my head at times.
Sometimes you just need to grab somebody and just give them a hug, tell them that it'll be okay.
Professional footballers helping young people with their mental health. That's the aim of virtual soccer schools, alongside learning platform Amazing People Schools. Online, in person, and with AI technology.
My question is, how do you deal with stress on and off the pitch?
Football is the most powerful sport in the world, and utilising footballers, we just see them as players on the pitch, passing the ball and scoring goals, but they have so much more to offer. So at VSS, we're providing them with a platform to showcase their mental health strategies, their setbacks, how they deal with anxiety, pressure and growth mindset, just not on the pitch, but how they utilise it off the pitch as well.
Former Arsenal defender Thomas Vermaelen was the latest footballer to take part in the charity's first ever in-person session.
Allow yourself to be disappointed.
I enjoy passing on experiences. If it's about mental health, my career, the pressure I've been through, giving my experience.
Sky Business sponsors this report.
That's all for the UK tonight. We will be back on Monday night at 8 o'clock. Coming up next, it's The World with Yalda Hakim, and she'll have the latest on those developments with Israeli strikes on Beirut. Stay tuned.